look what I'm drinking right now. Just gotta get me some beans. And I can't believe that you watched the same video, because that's the same video I was watching when I texted you. I was like, you have to like look at this guy.
I think that's like the craziest one. So that's why I watched it, because I was like, why would anyone do this? No,
Okay.
I mentioned it to Tristan because you sent me that text when we were like in the car, and I was like, yeah, Kaitlyn just told me to watch this guy, and he already knew who he was.
No way.
Yeah.
So like I was hanging out with like John and his friends last night. So I just was like over there, and I like hanging out with his friends, but it's just funny because like his YouTube suggested, like in comparison to mine's like murder mysteries. Like I watch a lot of like cut videos. There's like some comedy shows on there. His
Yeah.
is like 24 car accidents. Try try chugging 15 Dr. Peppers with me, and like, and I'm like, you're so boy right now. Like it's just like so funny. So we watched like a few YouTube videos of like food reviews, like some guy that he like likes his food review content, I guess, and he's like a small channel, like he gets like 1K views, and I'm like, you're like this guy's biggest fan. But then like we came across this guy. I don't think that any of us had seen this guy before, but it was like coming up, like it was loading as a suggested video, so we're like, what is this? Let's watch this. And it was like, just disgusting. Like all of us were dying laughing, and I started like crying. Like I was laughing so hard, and I was so like uncomfortable because it's just like the editing is so good. Like I want to know if he does that himself or if like somebody else does that for him, because it was so good. I was like, who is this guy's like editor? Because
We should do a podcast episode where we review chugging channels.
let's do it. We gotta put that in our Google Docs and stuff. Yeah, that was insane. That was literally insane. And I just like I that was all the masculine energy I think I'll need for like a week hanging out with them. I feel like we should include this conversation in the actual podcast. This is funny. But yeah, we were just, it was like me and John, obviously, Dan, and I think only Bobby. I was like, oh my god. We were like, how is this guy alive? Like he's going to die. He's 54. We looked it up.
There's no way he eats anything other than what he's chugging in his videos. There's like
That's what I said too.
7,000 calories in one boot. He drinks them out of like a glass boot.
And also just like the noises he was making, he was sweating, he was crying, like just so many fluids were coming out of his body at once, like during this video. But the noises, those were what really got me. Like he'd start chugging, and then he'd put down the boot, and he'd be like, ah, 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 and he'd like edit like flames around himself. And it would like zoom in really close to his face, because it's just so funny.
I don't know if you watched the chugging 50 raw eggs one,
No.
but you watch him crack every single egg into the boot. And and then he literally gags while he's drinking it, but doesn't throw up. And that's such an impressive skill. Like I've never seen anyone do that. It's like chugging and then he'll be like, ugh, and just keep going.
I can't believe he exists. I want to meet him. I want to be his friend. I also loved how like his like sponsorship for that video was like for like acid reflux pills.
Yeah.
How it's like, well, if it works for that guy, like that's a pretty good ad, right? Like I
That's
feel
so
like
relevant. I love it because other
right.
YouTubers just do like random like DraftKings and like games and stuff like that. And he's like, he has a solution for his own problem as an ad.
Yeah, literally. I gotta like bring up the chugging eggs video next time I'm with the boys. me and the boys. I'm just one of the boys now.
Yeah,
It
we
is
need to
really
hit up.
funny being around them.
We need to get Badlands Chugs as our next guest.
Oh my god, what if we did? What if like he was like our first guest on here?
That would actually be really cool.
I would love that. I would be like, can you be my uncle? Like
I'm not
I
even
like
kidding.
you.
I'll hit him up.
Let's do it. Let's see what happens. Like, why not? Be like, hey, like we discovered your videos. We think you're awesome. We just started a podcast. We want to interview you. Like,
and then we'll do a segment with him where we chug something with him.
oh my god, I think I'll throw up. I think I'll like even the smell, like I think I wouldn't have even been able to mix his like bean hot sauce Dr. Pepper contortion. Like that little cocktail, the smell alone would just send me into like cardiac arrest, I think.
And the beans were Dr. Pepper flavored. And then with more Dr. Pepper.
He was like, Dr. Pepper flavored beans. And then he was like, let me just add a little chaser of Dr. Pepper as well. And then you could hear, like, I think it was his wife in the background, like, telling him to add more hot sauce. She's like, add more, baby. And, like, he just, like, kept going. He's, like, sweating. He looked like he was, like, literally going to collapse. And he just, like, somehow keeps going.
This is gonna kill him someday. It's just gonna be, like, straight hot sauce eventually.
So gross.
Well, welcome back, everyone. I'm Lila. That sounds so corny. Can we do that again?
Yeah.
Welcome back. Here we are with episode 3. I'm Lila. I'm
Kaitlyn.
And we are the baggage claim.
For this episode, we wanted to talk about dating. We both are in relationships. We both have really funny stories of how we got into our relationships. So we were like, let's just share those stories. I guess I could start with my story on like how my boyfriend and I met.
Yeah, this one's wild.
This is really wild.
This has major twists.
Major twists and turns. You know, like on a tube. Anyways.
Yeah, like your actual elbow.
Yeah. So we're like giving it away. I'll start by saying I moved back home at the beginning of the summer in June. I started working this internship. And my boss from the internship is friends with my mom. That's actually how I got the internship. I wasn't looking to work this internship. It kind of fell into my lap. And I was like, sure, that sounds like a cool thing. Like, I'll do it. And my mom started talking about my boss, her friend. She started talking about his son, like, a little bit. And I was like, Like, and I thought there might be something happening. Like, she was going to try to set me up with him. And my mom's also really sneaky. Like, I thought I might, like, join them at a bar and he would be there sort of situation. Like I thought something was gonna happen. But they decided to play it a little safer, I guess. And they decided that they were going to invite my family to their family's lake house, which my parents have been there before, so it wasn't super weird, but we've never gone as families. So I think it was a little like, okay, little obvious, little suspicious, right? So I was told I could bring a friend of mine. So I brought one of my best friends from home, Amy. Hey, Amy. I know she's probably listening to this. And my boss has 2 sons. One of them's 3 years older than me. One of them's 2 years older than me. And I've kind of grown up knowing both of these boys. And obviously, like, our parents are friends. So, like, I've always known of them. So we get to the lake and our parents are like, the kids should take the boat first. And I'm thinking, okay, like, you guys are being so obvious with this right now. Like, I'm thinking they're trying to set me up with, like, one of the sons. And I was assuming kind of the younger son because he's closer in age with me. I thought that, like, the older son was, like, not really attainable. And then we get out on the boat. Amy and I were thinking, we were planning on water skiing, but neither of us had ever water skied before. So we kind of chickened out of it. Like, we were talking on the way down to the boat, and I was like, I'm kind of scared. She's like, I'm kind of scared. She's like, I'll chicken out if you do. I was like, bet. Let's just tube. Like, we both have gone tubing before. We both are comfortable with that and, like, know what to do. So we get out on the tube, and it's the most normal day ever. Like, if you've ever gone tubing, it's the most normal day.
It's fun. Like, it's easy. Like, generally, the biggest thing you're worried about is, like, your pants getting pulled off. Yeah, when you go too fast. Like, that's it.
And it's also just like, you know, sometimes you'll go tubing, or like sometimes if you're on like a jet ski or something. Like, I've gone on jet skis with my brothers and stuff, and they try to throw you off the back of it. Like, people sometimes be really rough with it. He wasn't even doing that. It was the younger son who was driving. The waves were a little choppy because it's kind of a small lake with a lot of bigger boats. Like, but it was normal. It was a normal speed. It wasn't anything crazy. We start going over this wave. We're about to hit it. And we knew, we were talking about it. We're like, oh, this is going to be the one. We're going to go under. The tube hits the wave. We do like a 180 flip. And knowing myself, I was probably trying to like beast mode that and like stay on it too long, twisted my elbow in a weird way. And then I, fall in the water. I didn't really feel it happen necessarily. But once I bob up to the top of the water, I start trying to swim and I'm like, oh, I can't move my right arm. Like, it's not doing anything. And the boys yell at us from the boat. They're like, oh, are you guys gonna get back on? I was like, I kind of hurt my arm. I don't think I can. And they're like, oh, just swim back to the boat then. I'm like, I can't. And like, I probably just sounded like such a little like damsel in distress, like, I can't swim. And I was really embarrassed because I was like, they're just gonna think that I'm like stupid. They're gonna think I don't know how to swim at 23 years old.
I think it's so funny that you're like, my arm doesn't work. And they're like, oh, just swim back.
That's true. But I was really downplaying it. I don't think anyone knew like how injured I really was. So they kind of pulled the boat back around and they had to both like help me onto this boat. Super embarrassing for me. But I get on the boat and they're like, do you want to go back to the house? Like, and I was like, no, it's okay. We're making jokes. We're like, it's probably just dislocated. Watch a YouTube video, pop it back into place. Like, it's fine, So I'm like, we can ride around for a little bit. And I was having fun. So I was like, I don't want to ruin the fun. I don't want to cause a scene. So we go around the boat for a little while longer. Amy goes on the tube for a little while longer. She comes back on. And then we take the boat back. And we then swap. Like, the parents get in the boat. We see my dad, like, on the way in. My dad's just kind of like, oh, how was it? Like, how was water skiing? And John, my now boyfriend, speaks over me, kind of like, oh, she got hurt. She didn't go. My dad's like, you big baby, like, and I was like, no, like, I'm not being a baby about this. Like, I have a pretty high pain tolerance, I think, and I knew this was broken. I knew, but again, like, I didn't want to make a thing out of it, so I was like gaslighting myself. I was like, it's fine, you're fine, like, it's fine. So I didn't cry, I didn't say anything about it, and we're going back up towards the house. And I remember saying to Amy, like, is it bad that I like John? Like, is it bad that, like, I kind of like him? Like, he's kind of cute. I noticed when we were on the boat, he drove after the incident. So I think Dan was too scared to continue driving. He felt really bad. But he kept looking over at me and being like, oh, like, did that hurt? Should I go slower over the waves? Like, very considerate. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's something here. We get back to the house. We're walking up to the house and John's like, can I get you ibuprofen and like ice? And so he goes in the freezer, he gives me some shrimp to like ice my elbow. And he gave me like an option.
I was like, that's such a
no,
you break your elbow, you sit down and he's like, would you like some shrimp? You
need some shrimp, baby. No, he gave me an option. It was between like shrimp and peas or something like that. And I was like, I don't know, shrimp, I guess. Like, I don't. And he's just like waiting on me hand and foot. So felt kind of nice. I was kind of like, oh, okay, like, sure. And so I forgot to mention this part. On the boat, once I got back on the boat, I tried to unzip the life jacket and I realized my top came off. It's not clipped on there. So I was like, Amy, like, help me. Like, I can't have these men seeing this right now. So I got back to the house and I was like, Amy, you need to help me change. Like, I'm sorry if it's weird, you need to help me change. She's like, it's okay. So we go in the bathroom, we change. She's helping me out. It's like funny, we're laughing. And I'm like, I'm so embarrassed right now. Like, why did that have to happen? I'm so embarrassed. Like, and I was like, I'm so sorry you have to like see my bare like titties. Like, I'm sorry. And she was like, girl, it's okay, it's not sexual. And I kind of heard something outside the door. And I was like, they probably heard all that. And they did. John told me that yesterday, that he heard like that conversation, like while we were in there. So that's great. But he still liked me after that, whatever. So we're like going to go sit down, ice my elbow and everything. And John's like, do you want to sit down? Do you want to be outside? Do you want to be inside? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm pretty easygoing. I'm like, I don't really care. But I'm like, I guess outside, because it was like nice outside still. He disappears for a second. He comes back with a cushion. Just one. Just for me. For my chair. It's like,
so romantic.
Okay, all right. Like, do you want to like kiss right now? No, but like, So we talk while we're out there. I'm noticing he's laughing at my jokes and stuff. And I'm like, okay, something might be there. Our parents come back. We eat dinner with them. And we kept having these little moments. Like, we were talking about, like, road trips and stuff. And I had just moved from Colorado. So we were talking about that. We started talking about Red Rocks. He said he'd seen one concert at Red Rocks. I'm like, which concert? He's like, oh, you probably don't know them, but, like, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. I was like, oh, I do know them, actually. My brother, I'm pretty sure, was at that concert. Like,
why do guys love to be like, you probably don't know them?
I know, but I was like, I do know them, and like his eyes just like morphed into hearts. Like in that moment, I saw it happen. Then like we were talking about cars, and he mentioned that like he drives a Miata. I was talking about Miatas with Amy the night prior, so she's like, wait, you were just talking about Miatas. Again, I see him kind of perk up a little bit. He's like in love with me. And the last little moment I guess we had involving cars was he was talking about when he was in California, he rented this super cool car. He's talking about it and he was like, yeah, it was like a Mini Cooper Turbo. My parents start laughing. They're like, that's what Kaitlyn drives. So like, you know, the stars are aligning. And then like this is the last thing that happened. My mom, I was really trying to get out of there. My mom was not getting the signal. I was in a lot of pain. I was like, I'm having fun, but like I need to go to a hospital. Like I'm very aware of this in this moment. The ibuprofen's kind of wearing off, and I'm like, oh god, like this hurts. So my mom's trying to find pictures on her phone. My mom's legally blind. It takes her a while to do stuff like that. So I was like, Mom, just hand me your phone. Like I can find the pictures for you. And she's just like, if you've met my mom, she's very independent. She doesn't like to get help for stuff. She doesn't like her condition to like hinder her from doing things as a normal sighted person would. So she's like not giving me her phone, and I'm like, Mom, like she was not picking up on my signals I was trying to put down, but I was like, I'm gonna start crying. My elbow hurts. She's not getting it. So I keep asking. She keeps like ignoring me, and I kind of look over at John. We exchange a glance. He giggles. And then he looks at the floor. And I was like, oh, was that funny, baby girl? Like, there was a moment. And I was like, okay, like, definitely. We like each other. Definitely. Gotta be. So I leave shortly after that. He walks out to the car with us and stuff. And I'm like, okay, he doesn't want me to leave. Like, he likes me. And I cry. I cry as soon as we get in the car. And I'm like, y'all need to take me to a hospital. My parents think I'm bluffing. They're like, oh, you're just being a baby. It doesn't even look swollen, like all this stuff. And I'm like, this is broken. They're like, you're so negative. Why are you assuming worst case scenario? I'm like, I'm being realistic.
You're so negative. Like your elbow is literally broken. You're not like giving them bad vibes. You actually have a broken bone.
I spoke it into existence. Actually, it wasn't broken until I said it was broken.
Yeah, you manifested it because you're so negative.
Yeah, exactly.
Your elbow was just trying to get away.
It was. So I know it's broken, and I'm like, if it's not broken, I'll be happy, but I'm preparing myself for the worst because I believe that's what it is. We get to the hospital. It was like an hour drive back to like my hometown, so I'm just suffering. We get back to the hospital. It'd been maybe 7 hours since I broke it, and they see me basically right away. I'm still in my bikini. Like, I walk into the ER, bikini on, like, broken elbow, lake hair. Like, I look a mess. I'm crying. And then, like, they see me basically right away because they didn't have anything going on. First thing the nurse says to me, she's like, oh, man, that's really swollen. Really? Because my dad said it wasn't. So then we get to, like, the x-rays. They're having me put my arm in all these different directions. It hurts so bad. Like, I can't move it. I can't do anything with it. They finally get a good x-ray of it. There's 2 nurses in there. And the one nurse goes, yeah, she's tough. He leaves.
That's always a good sign.
Yeah, and then the next nurse is like, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but I don't need a doctor to look at that x-ray to tell you that that is broken. I'm like, da-da-da-da. Like, I felt good about it because I was, like, valid. Like, I was like, I knew that it was broken, thank you, because, like, my parents were like, no, it's not broken, you're just being a baby. You weren't even crying, it's not even swollen, like, it would have hurt so much worse if it was broken, and I'm like, I think you guys are just underestimating how tough I really am. So, then, like, they kept me there, like, for almost the whole night. they're putting morphine in me. So I remember the feeling, the morphine entering my body. I'm on this hospital bed and my whole body just kind of, it feels like I was sinking into the bed. It was really nice. I didn't really feel the pain anymore. And they told me I needed emergency surgery because I had actually broken it in 2 places. Like, I didn't even break it once. I broke it twice. So, yeah. I wasn't able to get surgery for over a week after it happened, even though I was labeled emergency surgery, because nobody breaks their elbow. And I had to go to an elbow specialist. Like, all of the surgeons in my town were like, yo, that's way too complicated, like, above my pay grade. Like, they sent me to another town, like, an hour away, and there was only one surgeon, even in that town, who could do the surgery.
I didn't even know you could go to med school and like specialize in elbows.
Right.
That's
Like, because it's
so
like, I don't think
specific.
that's anyone's passion. Like, nobody's like, I am going to go to med school because I freaking love elbows.
Yeah, being a kid and thinking like, I'm gonna be an elbow doctor when I grow up.
Yeah, like, what? And I've never met anyone to break their elbow either. Like, I'm the only person that would ever happen to. And so I get surgery, you know, and so the day after the lake incident, Jonathan, my boyfriend now, followed my Instagram, and I was like, ooh, good signs, good signs. I follow him back. I was expecting him to DM me, I guess, because I just knew like there was a vibe there. Like, and he didn't for a week. But the day of the surgery, he DM'd me. And he was like, hope the surgery goes well. Like, we have to throw you get better soon party.
He was waiting for it to seem chill. And you having
I think
surgery
so.
is like such a great reason to slide into your DMs. I mean,
He
that's
told
also like a
me,
wild thing to wait for, but
yeah,
it
I
worked
do
out.
think like because like I was under the impression, at least at first, like he doesn't really like me. He just feels bad. He just feels bad because I broke my elbow like under his watch. Because I also think because I like him so much, it's like beyond my brain capacity to comprehend that he also likes me. And like I
Yeah.
don't think I'm like an unattractive person. I think I'm kind of a catch, but I just like him so much that I was like, no way he likes me back. Like I've been like really giddy about the whole thing. I asked him like, would you have still asked me out like had I not broken my elbow? And he was like, oh yeah, for sure. It just expedited the process. I was like, okay.
Weird way to put it, but
Yeah.
okay.
He told me that he already like wanted to talk to me prior to like the elbow breaking. He already thought I was cool and all this stuff, but he was like it gave me an excuse. Like then I was able to actually talk to you because, you know, you had to get surgery. And even like the weekend after I broke the elbow, prior to getting surgery, I flew to Denver for my graduation. I was like advised not to by my cocky surgeon, the elbow specialist, the only one. He's like, I don't know. I don't really like him. I think if I was like an elbow surgeon, I'd probably act the same way he does. But that being
Because you're
said,
like the only elbow surgeon in the world. He
it's
probably
like you're not
founded elbow
competing with
school.
anyone. Yeah, literally. But
Top of the elbow class.
he was like, you're not going to want to go to that. It's going to be miserable. You're going to be in so much pain. For 45 minutes, he tried to talk me down from like not going to my own graduation. I missed my own high school graduation. I'm not missing college. I was like, can I go? Like, are you going to hold me here hostage in the hospital and tell me that I am not able to go? He said, no, like, you're allowed to. I said, then that's it. Then I'm going. Like, no other conversation. He was warning me about the plane, saying that the pressure would just be too much for me. And I'm thinking, like, brace myself. My elbow's gonna explode. Like, we're taking off into the air, and I'm like, oh, God! And, like, nothing happens.
The
It was
bone's gonna
fine.
shatter into like a million pieces.
I wasn't even in pain. Like, I was completely fine. They'd prescribed me Percocets. So I'm, like, in the air, and I'm like, Percocet. Molly Percocet. Like, I was like, all those songs about perks like finally made sense. I was popping my pills and I was like, perk 10. I just popped a perk 10. Park 30. I just like it all started to come together for me in that moment. So it gave me such a more rounded experience. I think I'm glad I broke the elbow. If it meant I got a boyfriend, I would do it again. I'll break my other elbow, you know? But like I feel like everyone's babying me in the process because like I can't use my right arm. I couldn't work for a month. I couldn't drive. I couldn't do anything. Which was miserable. I was like stir crazy. But for in some ways it's nice because I like the like princess treatment I'm getting from it. Like that part feels nice. But I don't like my mom bathing me like I'm a 3-year-old and singing me the ABCs when she's doing it. That happened.
Did
And I was
she
like, can you
really?
yes. And I was like, don't do that. Like I was so mad at her and she thought it was funny. And I was like, this isn't
kind of
funny.
funny.
Like this is it's
It's
so
kind of funny.
humiliating. It is so human. Just imagine you're in a bath. And this is probably her dream scenario, to be honest, because like ever since I moved back in with my mom and my dad, they don't really like privacy. They don't know what that is. They've never heard of that word in their life. That was probably the worst part about it. That or the fact that for surgery they made me take out all of my piercings and take off my nails. I had never heard
Really?
of that. I didn't know that that was like a requirement for surgery, but apparently it is. And I was kind of shocked by that because I was like, okay, like I already broke my elbow. Didn't know that that also meant I couldn't be like a pretty girl. Like, sorry. So I had 10 piercings and I now have 8 because 2 of them closed up permanently. Like after I like honestly
Which
4 of them
ones?
closed up. My nose, yeah, it's gone now. And I'm not going to get it back cuz I liked it, but I also like my nose like regularly, so I was like whatever. It's not worth like re-piercing it.
Yeah.
That one closed up and I also had one in my ear, like a cartilage one that closed up. My belly button started to close and I was like pop that in there. Like, please. Like, I cannot not have a belly button ring. I have the belly button of like a fat person. Like, it's like, sorry. I don't know if that's like okay to say, but like, I have like a super innie, and I always hated my belly button. So I was like, I need to have a belly button ring. And I started liking my belly button after having the belly button piercing because you couldn't see how far in of an innie it was anymore because there's a little jewelry piece there. So
Yeah.
I was like, I need that. And then I also have I don't even know what this one's called, the one on like this part of your ear. Like, but
I don't
I have
remember.
that one too, and that one started to close too. So then I had made them force that back in. Those were the downsides about breaking my elbow for sure. Like I don't really care that it's broken. I keep having dreams that like my arm is just cut off because it like feels
Crazy.
useless right now. It would be better if it just wasn't there.
I mean, breaking your elbow is like paying the price for getting a boyfriend, I guess.
Yeah,
Like
I
that was
just
your
God
sacrifice. But yeah, I definitely didn't break my elbow in the process of getting a boyfriend. But
your
it was
story
still
is
pretty
still
crazy.
crazy though. I think it's about equal level crazy.
So yeah, my boyfriend and I started dating this January because he's my brother's friend. He moved here to hang out with my brother. And then he started working at a store that was like right next to our college campus. And I was like texting my brother, trying to get him to hang out with me. He was like, no, screw you. Go say hi to Tristan if you want. He was joking. I don't joke. So I showed up to his
You're
store.
always joking.
No, CoStar did a thing the other day that was like your sense of humor, like you and your friend's sense of humor. It said my sense of humor is non existent.
That's
I've
not
never
true at
been more
all.
offended.
Yeah, that's like your best personality trait.
But, anyways, I run to the store at like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. I literally run because I'm like scared of the dark in Denver. Like, you don't know. You don't know who's lurking in the shadows.
There's
So I
so many
like,
crackheads.
yeah, there's so many. And like fentanyl zombies now. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're wild.
Yeah, I have. They're really scary.
So I'm like running through like all the zombies and the crackheads, and I get to his store, and he doesn't know I'm coming. He barely knows who I am. I've met him once in my whole life, and I'm just like, hey, Madison told me to say hi. he tells Madison that I'm there. Madison gets pissed, tells us not to talk to each other. But I still did. So Tristan gives me his number because I don't have a car. And he's like, hey, if you ever need to like get somewhere or if you want to like get off campus, let me know. I can give you a ride. And this is where I basically coerced him into a first date because I said, I want to go see this movie, but I can't get there. So could you drive me to the theater? And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, I'll do that. He picks me up to go see The Whale at the time. Not the most romantic choice. Yeah. And I'm just like, well, you're already here. Like, you're already at the movie theater. You might as well see the movie with me. And it's too deep.
Is anybody else there?
Like at the when you like
with you, were you meeting other people?
No. I asked him to drive me to a movie by myself.
It's like watch it alone.
Yeah. And then in the car, I was like, nah, just you might as well come with me at this point. And he's in too far that it's awkward if he says no, you know? So he says yes, and he watches the movie with me. But then I realized he actually did like me because we ended up talking until I think like 2 or 3 in the morning. Like we just drove around chatting. He came back to campus for a bit and we were just talking. And then so we start seeing each other. Like I'm coming over to his place, hanging out. But this is like my first serious long-term relationship. Everything else in the past has been like temporary, like, you know, I'm young, people don't take relationships seriously. So I don't know like what I can say, what we can talk about. Like I don't want to scare him off, you know, I don't want to come across too serious. And then one day I was at the grocery store because we had a Safeway right by campus. And it's still like early in the year. I think it was like March. We had been dating for a couple of months and there's ice on the ground everywhere. And you really can't get around it, especially like on campus and around campus. You just try not to slip, you know? And there was this thing of like, it was like black ice, you know? It was like really translucent on the road. And I'm like, oh, I walk across ice all the time, whatever. I step on it and my foot goes straight through it. And I slip like a cartoon character. I don't know how else to put it. Like my legs flew above my head and I'm on my back in this pile of sludge. Like it's not
so
ice.
We both
it's clearly
got
not
injured.
Ice. Yeah,
somehow
we did.
Water related question mark.
I'm like, what the hell is this? And it's chicken grease. I realize that I smell like fried chicken. I'm like, why does it smell like fried chicken? I get my hand up. There's literally like bits of chicken breading in the grease on my hand. Ew. It's all over my pants. I was wearing like a $70 sweatshirt that was white. I got it all over it. It was on everything. I just get up as fast as I can and walk away. But now my issue is I have chicken grease stains on like all my nice clothes. And I'm like, I need to get stain remover. I need to like wash my clothes. But I call my mom about it because I'm freaking out. I'm trying to not seem awkward. That's what I always do if something embarrassing happens to me in public. I immediately call my mom because I feel like people will think it's more normal if I'm on the phone for some reason, or they'll like pay less attention to me. And my mom is like, just call Tristan. He'll take you somewhere, like get stain remover, like wash your stuff, whatever. But I'm like, is it too early to tell him I fell in chicken grease in the Safeway parking lot? You know, like what if he's had a bad experience with a girl that fell in chicken grease? What if that's like his biggest red flag? You know?
Yeah, because that happens like really often.
Yeah, of course. So I call him and I'm like, hey, I don't know how to tell you this. And I'm crying, by the way, because I'm so embarrassed that this just happened in public. People were looking at me in the parking lot. I call him and I'm like, I don't know how to tell you this. He probably thinks I'm breaking up with him because I'm like so emotional. I'm like, I don't even know how to explain this. I don't know what to say. And he's like, what? Like, just tell me, like, what's going on? And I'm like, I just fell in chicken grease. And he doesn't believe me. Like, he straight you know, I guess I mess around so much. He's like, this must just be another like scheme. I can't believe that even that early in our relationship, he thought I would spontaneously call him and lie about falling in chicken grease in public. But he did. So he picks me up. I change before I get in the car, because I don't want everything to smell like fried chicken. And he drives me back up to Safeway to get stain remover. I'm like, I don't know if you should have taken me to the place I just had a traumatic incident, but whatever, you know.
You're gonna start having like PTSD.
Yeah, but I had realized on the way there that I had my glasses on my head when I fell, and they're not on my head anymore. So we're like, while we're here, let's see if they're in the parking lot, you know? If I fell so dramatically that they like flew behind me or something. So we drive back to the scene of the crime, and my glasses are sticking straight up in the middle of the chicken grease. Like the parts that go on your ears are literally facing the sky. It looked like some sort of like Scooby-Doo crime scene. Like, he didn't believe me, and then he saw that and he was like, yeah, that sure happened. In the end, I'd like to think it brought us closer together. I think it was a really vulnerable moment for me to admit that happened. But yeah, I can't believe it happened. Like, that's such a wild thing to happen to someone, but I feel like things like that happen to us all the time. Like, we can't get away from it.
Like, who does this stuff? This only happens to us.
That's why he didn't believe me, because it's so unbelievable. It's
Yeah.
this doesn't happen in real life. But yeah, it happens to us. I know we're going to talk about some statistics about dating that you found. One of them that I wanted to talk about. So we found this statistic from Campus Explorer that says by senior year, 72% of students have hooked up. And I think that really just shows how bad like hookup culture is, and how
It's
college students
awful.
especially just aren't taking relationships seriously. That's probably part of the reason we're dating guys older than us, is
Yeah.
because like all these guys in college, they don't know how real relationships work. Like, they're
Yeah.
trying to hook up and leave, or hook up with multiple girls at once. I know I talked to this guy, Wall, and I met him in class, and he literally walked me home from class the first day I met him, which is like a crazy thing to do. And then he just tried to hang out with me like 24/7. And I thought at first, I was like, oh, he must be pretty serious. Like, maybe, you know, like maybe he's looking for a relationship. Then I found out he's seeing like 3 other girls at the same time, and invited me to a party with one of those girls. And I know you've also had experiences with guys like seeing multiple girls at once. It honestly impresses me. Okay, it's horrible. Like, it shouldn't be like this. But at the same time, like, these dudes need to put this on a resume. Like, the time management skills to date multiple girls at the
Right.
same time, like the leadership to create this scheme on your own and work on it every day. They got really good interpersonal skills because
They
they're using
do.
them.
So on the same like topic, I actually just told John about this last night. There was a guy, probably the only guy that I really was seriously considering seeing in college, because I went through a really rough, messy breakup. I was dating the same guy for about 3 years, from high school, like late high school into early college. I got cheated on. It was messy. It was bad. Like, my trust issues were like through the roof after that. And I didn't really want to date. I just didn't have much interest in it, and I didn't trust anyone. And that being said, I don't think I should have. All the guys that came my way during that era, I don't think were good guys. But there's one guy that really takes the cake that I think I need to talk about, because the way that I was like delirious over this man. And I think you already know who I'm going to be talking about. He was a mutual friend of a friend. He used to be roommates with some girl that I was friends with because he was really close with her boyfriend. And she hated him. We actually didn't connect the dots on that until a little while later into us talking. But he was like, I remember right away texting you and being like, this guy's a slut. Like, there was just something.
You knew.
Yeah, I knew right away. He was just too good at flirting. I think there was some energy behind it where I was like, this is something he does often. But he also was so sweet that, like, I think I was just easily manipulated into thinking that he was serious about me. And he would say he was. Like, he would, like, insinuate and, like, sometimes just flat out say, like, he wanted a relationship with me. But he also had a really messy breakup, like, in his past relationship. So we both were in a place where, like, we were kind of scared, I think, to trust another person. That's what I thought, at least. I talked to him for a few months. I thought things were getting pretty, like, serious. Like, I had met his dad. We did, like, matching couples costumes for Halloween, which seemed like a really big step for me because I never even did that with, like, my long-term ex. So I was like, oh, okay, like, he must really like me. So I'm thinking things are going in a good direction. And also the fact we had mutual friends and stuff, I thought it was, like, a good situation. That being said, my friend that knew him hated him. So I kept catching him in these little things where it seemed as though he was talking to other girls.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like it's such a hard situation for girls where, like, you know you can't trust every guy, but you also don't want to come across like you have crazy trust issues.
Right.
And you have to either, like, go into it, trust them, or potentially, like, scare them off because you're being cautious, you know? And there's, like, no right answer.
Especially at this point, because I had been out of a relationship for about 2 years, and I was genuinely healed from my past relationship. Like, I was ready to move on. I was ready to be with someone new. But that being said, like, he was doing stuff that was insinuating he wasn't being loyal, while also telling me that I was, like, the only girl he was talking to, like, he wanted to date me, all this stuff. So the first one was, we were texting. He said randomly, he was like, I'm going to a concert tonight, out of nowhere. And I was like, oh, like, that's kind of weird, but, like, I don't, you know, sounds like fun. I don't really care. Then he leaves me on red. He says, like, miss you, which he had never done before. I'm spiraling because he mentioned he got free tickets to this concert, and I'm like, with who, you know? And I told myself, yeah. So I told myself that it was his brother. I know his brother likes to go to concerts, just to, like, ease my own mind about it.
Although if you're going to a concert with someone, the regular person would be like, oh, I'm going to a concert with my brother, or I'm going to a concert with my friend, not be like, I just got a free concert ticket. Like,
it
obviously
was really
you
suspicious. It was really suspicious. And it came out of nowhere. And then he leaves me on red. So I'm thinking, like, worst case scenario, I'm like, he's with another girl right now. And then he posted on Be Real, which I had to delete Be Real because of this. But he posted on Be Real, and it's like him and, like, a bunch of people. There's a girl next to him that's wearing this hat. He's not wearing a hat. He usually wears a hat. And I was like, that's suspicious. The hat kind of looked familiar. I screenshot the Be Real, and I start stalking. I'm looking, trying to find a picture of this hat with him wearing it. And I find one. And I'm like, oh my God, that's his hat. Yeah. She's wearing his hat. That's flirting. Like, why would she be wearing his hat? So, but I'm like, okay, you're not dating yet. Like, you're being crazy. And I talk myself down. He doesn't text me until, like, the next day, which is also super sus because, like, what are you doing during that whole time that, like, you're not texting me when you usually text me all the time? So this man, we're going to call him Con Man. Con Man was just texting. He was like, it was really fun. I lost my keys. I lost my phone, like, all this stuff. And I'm like, sounds fun. Like, I'm just, like, super short with him. And he was like, what's wrong? Are you mad at me? He starts blowing up my phone. And it's like, I'm not mad, but should I be? Like, do I have a reason to be mad? Like, did you do something that should make me mad? You know? And anytime that we had, like, a little problem in our little situationship, this man, Lila can vouch for this, blow up my phone. Very suspicious behavior, but I kind of dropped it. I didn't say anything about it. I'm not very confrontational. So I just wasn't going to say anything. It was just going to be something I had in my mind. Like, I know this happened. Next time we hang out, we're talking, like, what would we need taken care of for us if we died? Like, it was, like, this, like, conversation. I don't know who brought it up. And I said, I would need all the screenshot, like, all my photos from my phone deleted. He goes, yeah, I know. You screenshotted my B-reel. Up until this moment, I didn't know that someone could, like, know that you screenshotted their B-reel.
I remember you asking me, though. And I was like, oh, I don't have B-reel.
So I didn't know. And he hadn't said anything. It had been days, and he hadn't said anything. So I thought I was, like, in the clear. I was not. He wouldn't drop it. He wouldn't let it go. So I just said, plain and simple, I'm down bad. That is all I'm gonna say. Like, I am down bad. That's all you need to know. He wouldn't take that for an answer. So he makes me tell him, and I'm like, I know how crazy I have to be to even find out this information. Like, so, but, like, why was she wearing your hat, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, that's Eva. I'm not even with Eva like that. Like, Eva's just my friend. Like, she's gay. I'm like, you shouldn't have told me your name, because now I'm going to find her Instagram. And I did. And we kind of looked alike. So I was like, type, you know? But I kind of dropped it. I let it go. And then another thing happened. This was the second thing. We're hanging out at his house. We're just, you know, watching TV, chilling, like, whatever. And my phone starts blowing up from my friend who, like, mutually knew him. She's like, girl, I gotta tell you something. I'm assuming she's gonna be, like, talking about her man. She tells me, Con Man took another girl skiing today. I had known that he had gone skiing because he told me that, but he didn't tell me who with. But apparently he went with one of his ex-roommates who, like, still lives with my friend. I didn't say anything to him. I just said, where are my bags? Where's my bag? Like, he's like, right here. He hands it to me. He's confused. And I'm like, I have to go home. He was like, okay. Like, very confused. He didn't know what was going on, but I wasn't going to say anything to him. Because I knew if I started talking, like, a murder might happen. Like, if I let myself get upset about this, I don't know if I'll be able to control my reaction. So I have to leave, which I think was the mature thing to do. Like, if it's between that or, like, ripping someone's head off, I think, like, I did the right thing.
Yeah,
so I leave. I'm sitting in my car. I'm, like, texting you, and I'm like, I'm so mad right now. I couldn't drive. I just had to sit in my car for a second. I couldn't drive home in the state of mind I was in. So I was, like, sitting in my car, and I receive a text from him. And he's like, not that it's a big deal, but it really hurt my feelings the way you left like that. And I was like, well, maybe you should have thought about that before you took another girl skiing today and have my friend be the one to tell me. And he's like,
that comment is, like, so ironic in hindsight. Him being like, you hurt my feelings.
Right? Because it's like, what did I do? You know? And then, like, he was, like, saying, like, oh, I'm not even with Kenna like that, blah, 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 blah. That's when I started to think, maybe I'm wrong. You know, but maybe
again, these guys are so good at, like, strategizing. Anytime you're like, hey, this is fishy, he has an answer. And you're like, exactly. Okay, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, and I started to think maybe I was wrong, and I started to feel kind of bad, and I'm thinking I'm crazy. Like, why? I'm so traumatized from my ex. I think everybody's cheating on me. I'm crazy. Like, he doesn't even deserve this. Why am I acting like this? And I'm like, he's like, you didn't even ask me. Like, you're just childish and you just left. I was like, I'm still outside. If you want me to, like, come back in, we could talk, you know? He's like, you know where my room is. Like, you're so girly pop right now. You're gonna make me chase after you and go in your room. I did it, though. I was like, whatever. But it was embarrassing because his like, roommate saw me, like, storm out of the house, like, 10 minutes before, and he sees me come back in. I'm like, hey, I'm back. So I go in his room, and I was fully prepared because I thought he was still lying. I was fully prepared to go in there and rip him to shreds, say the meanest stuff I could conjure up. And I go in his room. He has his hoodie pulled up, his strings pulled in, crying. And I feel awful. And I'm like, oh God. And it's also like, what do you do when someone's crying? It's uncomfortable. I don't know how to console people. Like, I'm not super like emotional like that. Like, I don't know what to do.
He's
So
also
I was like,
crying over nothing.
right.
Like, you didn't do anything.
It was purely a manipulation tactic. It was purely because he had been caught. Like, that's why. But he starts saying, like, I don't want for people to get in between us. Like, you know how much your friend hates me. Like, she would say anything, like, to get us apart, yada, yada. And it's like, looking back, so funny that he's like, I don't want people to get between us while simultaneously talking to every woman who, like, lives in Colorado.
Yeah.
So that should have been it for me, but it wasn't. And I ended up, he got really distant towards me, and I was like, okay, there's something sus about this man. I cut him off. And he kept texting me about every week. Just, he started off with like, I'm sorry type stuff, like, I miss you, like, type stuff. Are you okay? I saw your TikTok, it's concerning. And like, I had texted him, last thing I had texted him was like, you can lose my number, unfollow my TikTok while you're at it. I post a lot of content on TikTok. I'm not TikTok famous or anything, but I have a fun time posting stuff. A lot of it's like dating related. I posted maybe a couple TikToks that were like about him, but they're all like silly and goofy and fun, nothing deep. But this man thinks he's God's gift to the world. Any TikTok that I post that's about dating, he automatically assumes is about him. Because I would notice if I posted a TikTok, he'd be texting me. He'd say stuff like, saw your TikTok, and I'm like, why would you think that's about you? Who do you
It
think
just
you
shows how
are?
arrogant he is.
Yeah, like, who do you think you are? And so I didn't reply. Like, I just let him use the chat as his diary. He's monologuing at this point. Like, I did not reply. This went on for months. And then, like, I replied one time. And then he started upping his game. And he'd send me, like, relationship like videos. Like, as if we were talking again. And I'm like, this
It's
man's
crazy.
insane.
The fact that he would like send you so much and you'll respond once and he'll be like, ha, knew you were obsessed with me. Like,
Right.
you
And
have to be psychotic to think that.
he was texting me stuff like, love you. We never even said that. We never even said that to each
It's
other.
kind of
I
funny.
never felt that way. I never felt that way. So I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, and so I had enough of the texting and everything. So I decided to post a TikTok. This is where this is all going to come full circle about these men keeping around girls and how strategized they are with this, okay? I post this TikTok and I said something along the lines of like, when he keeps reaching out, like, I don't, something like that. And I tag him in it. I wanted to be messy. I wanted like public embarrassment for this man. So I tag him in it and I like caption it like, do something. And he comments like, love my fans, like, #1 fan. Who's fan here? Like, you like all of my TikToks. You DM me, you text me to no response, but I'm your fan? What? And so then I get this comment from some random girl. I already knew who she was because I'd seen her reacting to his B-reels like months ago with heart eye emojis and shit like that. Like, I knew damn well who this girl was. I knew where this was going. She comments on it and she's like, does he have a nose ring and drive a yellow Subi and look like he has mommy issues? Something like that. I comment back like, yes, sorry girl, you're a victim. She DMs me. We bonded over it. Come to find out, because I was like, when were you talking to him? We talked to him for like basically the same start to same expiration date. Like, it was like this same period of time that we were both talking to this man. He's leading us both on, making us both think we're gonna get into a relationship with them. And we're both super confused because we're like, she's like, I met his mom. I'm like, I met his dad.
Because it
Right, but
makes
it's
you
like,
both think that it's serious. Because you're like, oh, I'm meeting a parent,
exactly.
but his
And his
parents are
parents are
divorced.
divorced.
So you can just meet separate parents and you'll never know.
And that's why he is the way he is, because his dad is a slut and he would talk about it like as if it was this thing that like really bothered him growing up. And I'm like, you're literally his little twinny, like, you're like slut junior, like,
We
because
need to
you're
have
acting
a
just like him.
We need to have a Chad episode.
We need that's a whole other thing. But these men are so calculated. And another statistic that we read was that 63% of college women hope to meet their spouse in college. So I don't really talk to men unless if I think like it could result in marriage. Like that's just the way I am. And these are the men I'm working with.
The other thing I was gonna say is that our first statistic too is 1 in 4 college students has an STD. And when you're talking to a guy, you don't know he's seeing other girls. Like that is such a huge risk health-wise that you're not going to know till it's too late. But they have no regard for anyone but themselves. They don't. Right. They probably think it's like a sport. Like how many STDs can I give out?
Oh my god. It's like Pokemon, like collect them all. No, I can't. It makes me so mad to think about it, but that's why I'm that much happier about like my current relationship, because like my boyfriend is amazing. Like everything I've ever had a problem with men doing in the past, and I would be convinced fully that it was my fault, that I'm crazy. Like I started to realize that everything that I ever did that was crazy was reactive.
Yeah.
I've not been crazy with him at all because he's given me no reason to. He's just like a good guy. He just like doesn't talk to multiple women, which is like my number one thing, I think, because that's what I've dealt with the most.
It should be the bare minimum, but it's like so impressive at this point.
Yeah, he really does go above and beyond though. He's great. So it's like now that I'm in something that's actually healthy, I'm starting to realize like, oh, I wasn't the problem.
Yeah. Are you ready for our Juliation?
I think so.
Today we have Juliation 1216. And since we're talking about relationships and dating, I thought we should have Julian talk about kissing. So, Juliation 1216. Last time I flew to #Colorado, 2 clouds outside my window were kissing. #clouds, #kissing. At Colorado. I like Gorgeous. That he adds Colorado, like the whole state.
Yeah, like as if like someone's like running the account for Colorado State.
And do you also think that the people looking at #kissing are looking for tweets about clouds?
Probably not. I don't think that anyone would necessarily be looking for this, but it's one of those things that stumbles upon you. And that's why it's romantic. You don't expect it, but you get it, and it changes you.
He must have been in a relationship while he wrote this, because this is such like a romantic mentality. Like he was thinking about her, and he's looking at the clouds, and he's like, oh my god, they're kissing.
he's like, that's so me and her. That's so us. He like sent her a picture. He's like, babe, look, it's us.
She's like, what the hell is this? It's the
He's
sky.
Like, it's us kissing. It's us kissing, baby. Tag yourself. I'm that cloud. He's like, I'm the cumulonimbus. Like,
yeah, I'm the stratus cloud.
Oh my god. Thank you to everyone for tuning in and listening. Shout out Johnny Cakes.
Shout out Tristy Poo Boo Bear.
Yeah, you guys are literally the inspo for this episode, so thank you. Yeah, thank you also to Campus Explorer, where we got all of our research and statistics for today's episode. Help us to prove how much of sluts men are in college. And I think we should start slut-shaming men if they're acting like sluts, you know? Why is that okay?
Yeah, agreed. And next episode, let's try to have Badlands Chugs on.
Yeah, we better get our baby Badlands on here.